first club I ever joined, it was right after I got a divorce. So I had nothing better to do, really. And I knew most of the guys in the club, and I had a bike, so why in the hell not, you know? They were all good people. I considered them all friends. That was the Straight Satans. So I just started riding with them. They offered me to go Perspective, so I went Perspective with them. Then we went down to the Caracol restaurant, and they swore my butt in, whatever. I can't even remember what it was now, but I couldn't mention it even if I did.
Let's fucking go!
I rode with them for probably, I don't know, a year, maybe a little more. There were about maybe 10, 12 members. Oh, geez, that was Four Fingered Jack, El Cid, Bert, of course Shorty, myself, Little Joe. He was one of them non-bikers. But he was a member, I don't know how, but he was a member. Maybe he had a bike and lost it or something. Gino Queedy, the striper and painter. He was as good as Von Dutch, at least as good as Von Dutch. But people just never caught on to him. Shorty was the president of the Straight Satans all the time I ever knew him. And we used to call him Wolfman because he was covered with hair. Now, I'm not talking about hair like you and I have. This is animal hair. And if you use the bathroom after he'd done taking a shower, you need a working party to get the hair out. It was like somebody else was laying in bed wearing a fur coat, or laying in the bathtub with a fur coat on. I mean, he was hairy. Oh, and every time Shorty could get a girl, and he could get girls, man. I don't know if you want to hear this, but Shorty had a 13-inch and one nut and a hunchback. But he could catch the prettiest goddamn women you ever saw in your life. He'd go up to Hollywood. He'd be back in an hour with one. He couldn't keep them. He'd lose them within an hour. But he could sure catch them. I think Shorty's the first one to ever start the Straight Satans. He's the only one I ever heard referred to him long before I ever rode with him.
What about Father Bill?
I don't know if that's Father Bill or Pop, because I think they were the same ones. But Pop sold the books to the feds to get out of some kind of a beef. So there's still a contract on him. Hello. Oh yeah, all of them were outcasts of one form or another. Their family didn't want them. They were never welcome in school, never really had any friends when they were growing up. And they were by and large good people. They all were all good friends. Then the SoCal Angels, Hell's Angels, invited us to transfer over. Yeah, everybody but Shorty. Well, Shorty was just, sometimes Shorty just get out of control. I mean, completely out of control. And Shorty was getting a little bit weird. Starting to want people to do weird things to get into the club. Stick one thumb up your ass and one thumb on your mouth and then change them. We didn't have any of that except for when Four-Fingered Jack vet Sill that he couldn't get his bike on the road in a week. And of course it took 3 or 4 of us to help Sill get his bike running. We got his bike running, and he had to go through with the bet. That meant he had to literally kiss Silverio Aguirre dead on the asshole, on the round brown. And he did it, right in front of God and everybody. Sil was a happy guy. He was always happy. Just a jolly Mexican. I never knew him to be mad. Except for this old lady. She used to get pissed off at her all the time. Of course, she used to get him pissed off on purpose. She liked to see him angry. One of them kind.
What made you want to be an angel?
Part of it was because most of the other guys from the Straight Satans were leaving. The Hells Angels were a little more businesslike. They seemed to know what in the hell they were doing, what they wanted to do. The Straight Satans would wait until the last minute to decide, even if they were going to go on a ride or something. You know? I'd have my old lady spend 2 days cleaning up my bike and then didn't even go for a ride. All that work for nothing. Oh, when people would see you and you were flying your colors, people would literally get the hell out of your way. I've had people literally pull off the side of the road and just let me stay, just get the hell away from them. When you're flying your colors, you do what you want, when you want. And if people give you too much trouble, you get some more people. That's all. Just don't take any crap. You might take an ass whipping, but you don't take no crap. It just gives you freedom that you don't get any other way. You don't have to take any shit off of anybody. You can give shit to anybody you want to, and if you need help, it's always there. You never have to need for anything. You have friends whenever you need them. And I'll tell you, my friend, a friend in need is a friend indeed. When you got 10 people chasing your ass, it's good to have friends. Most of them were by and large good people. They were honest to each other, by and large, because if you weren't, you came up missing. Or with dents all over your head.
What clubs back then were considered one percenters?
Oh, Jesus. Satan's Slaves, Straight Satans, Galloping Gooses. Although the Galloping Gooses, I don't think at that time had the 1%er on their logo. They had the running finger, the outhouse. We called them the running ducks. They pissed them off. Venice in the early 60s, Sonny and Cher were living down there in a little apartment on the Speedway. He was pushing 30 and she was no more than 13. In fact, we almost kicked his for him over that. But he kept telling us one day this girl's going to be a star, and we told him he was an idiot.
Were the Straight Satans meetings back then above the silver dollar?
No, back then we were holding them at the Caracol. It was a restaurant out on PCH, just past Topanga Canyon. It was owned by George and Eddie. They were a gay couple. And they always treated us good. And I used them as a bank. I used to keep my money with them. I always trusted them. And I wouldn't have trusted any of my fellow club members with the money I trusted them with. They were just good people. Oh, the Dungeons in Venice, the hotel? That's a great place. They were $35 a month rents. And they were like a studio. Yeah, they were a studio with room for a bed, a small kitchenette type thing in the same room, and a bathroom. And cigarette butts were about 3 inches deep on the floor, because whoever put we put them out, but we didn't throw them away. Well, in the Dungeons is where all the dope addicts used to live. There were probably 100 rooms in that old, dilapidated apartment building. And probably most of the people in there were hookers and drug addicts and just all the scum of the earth. So we fit right in. As I'm on my way over to see Shorty one day at the Dungeons, and I see little Joe sitting out in a police car. Then they bring out Shorty, Straight Satan Shorty, and a couple other guys, put them in another police car and drive off. Then little Joe gets out of the police car, and one of the cops hands him a business card, and they let him go. And he knew I saw him, so he left town right away. He was one of them guys that went off on Asmodor. Asmodor is something that you bought at the drugstore. In fact, you shouldn't even put that in there. If you could still buy Asmodor, don't mention it. You'll have dead people all over the country. Some of them were phonies. They didn't have a bike, but yet, dressed like they did. Those kind of guys that irritated me. If you didn't have a bike, so what? Who cares? But don't dress like you do. It's like you and I going down south and start talking that y'all stuff, you know. It doesn't fit. They used to actually have a bunch of businessmen. I'm serious now. Lawyers and doctors and stuff actually wore everything just like they were a biker. Cut-offs and everything, wigs, to make it look like they had long hair. Actually wearing wigs and stuff. But you always knew who they were. First of all, they didn't know how to start their bike. You take a little piece of cardboard off a matchbook and stick it in their points and watch them kick. They kick for hours. They used to sit in Rita's apartment across the street from the Saucy Dog on the second floor and watch the people stash their drugs in the parking lot and then go have a friend go relieve them of their drugs. We always had parties going on. Okay, the Saucy Dog was how would you describe it? Like something that fell out of a cow's ass. You never ate anything that was fried because they kept all of their grease in a big stainless steel tub behind the restaurant under the eave. Now, anybody that's lived around the ocean anywhere knows they got roaches, and they got some big roaches. And these roaches would fall into this grease and swim around and get stuck and finally drown and sink down in. They'd fall in and drop in from the eaves up above. But every morning before they'd open, they'd go out and skim the roaches out and then put the oil back into the deep fryer. But you never ate French fries, and you never ever ate a Saucy Dog. Saucy Dog it's like, I can't even think of anything quite that nasty. Well, just think of eating fried cockroach, deep fried cockroach, and that's what you got.
What kind of people hung out at the Saucy Dog?
Oh, crazy people, psychos. Oh, people like Tex. Tex was an older guy that first time I ever saw him, everybody back then packed. I had a 9mm on me, and the first time I ever saw Tex, he come walking in, was giving me some funny looks. And I started looking back at him. I thought, what in the hell is this old guy up to? And then he reaches inside of his jacket, and I could see he's got something in there. So I was going to pull out my piece, and I think it was Bert, grabbed my hand and pulled it down. Said, no, that's Tex, that's just a cap gun. Apparently he plays quick draw with everybody, and he's going to get knew he was going to get his butt shot one of these times. And then there was the guy who he had a prosthetic nose, and he had a drinking problem. He'd get drunk and lose his nose. He'd be coming around, anybody seen my nose? Anybody seen my nose? And sometimes he'd get up a small working party and they go around looking for his nose. But without his nose, he has these huge gaping holes in his face, about, I don't know, an inch and a half long and maybe a half-inch wide. Big gaping holes you can see right into his sinuses. How about Bo? Bo owned the Avalon Club up on Avalon Boulevard in southwest LA. Him and his old lady ran the club. And he was always kind of jealous of her, especially around all these white boys, because they were a black couple. And she was just good with people. She was never doing anything with anybody. She was just good with people. And she used it. And people, were good customers. But she got it into his head that she was having an affair, and somehow I got involved, and I don't even know how. But he turned around and he says, I'm going to get my gun and blow your goddamn head off, or some kind of expletive. But he turned and he started heading for the kitchen, and she picked up a big French knife, and she came down on his right side, between his clavicle and his neck, and she drove that thing, 18-inch blade, all the way up to the hilt, and he just dropped. So I took my hamburger and I left. But they cut her loose. If there'd have been any problem, I'd have come back and made made sure it got all straightened out. But I didn't want to go to jail for a bunch of tickets.